Art fascinates, divides, and always gives rise to speculation. Some of the world's most famous masterpieces appear to be much more than just portraits or images of well-known biblical scenes. They conceal messages, secret codes, and symbols with which the artist sometimes expressed something monstrous, mysterious, and secret. In this video, we'll show you 10 of the most famous works of art and their secret messages. Are you fascinated by mysterious things and incredible discoveries? Then give us a thumbs up, subscribe to Hidden Worlds, and join us on our adventure. Mona Lisa. The whole world knows this face. It is still not completely clear who Leonardo da Vinci's most famous painting actually depicts. It could be a Florentine noblewoman or the wife of a cloth merchant. Some crazy interpretations even see the painting as a self-portrait of Leonardo or his alleged lover and assistant, Gian Giacomo Caprati. Leonardo painted the mouth of the female figure in such a way that she appears to be smiling to cheerful viewers. Anyone looking at Mona Lisa with a frown will see a rather sad woman. To this day, there is speculation as to whether this was a pure coincidence or whether the master intended it that way. It could also be a hidden mystery as to who is really in the picture. Interpretations of the background were hardly possible, as Leonardo chose relatively meaningless natural scenes, which was quite atypical for his time. The painting, measuring just 77 by 53 centimeters, now hangs in the Louvre in Paris. On the beach. Restorers have been able to uncover the well-kept secret of Hendrik van Athenissen's painting On the Beach much more clearly. Art curators and experts around the world have long found something strange about this painting. For the fact that there was actually nothing special about this beach landscape, it was bustling with activity. Groups of people gathered and a curious-looking crowd stood on top of the dunes looking down at the water. When a layer of paint that was much younger than the rest came off during restoration, the crowd on the beach suddenly became explainable. The first thing to emerge was a man floating in the air. During further restoration work, a whale on which the man was standing came to light. The 17th century painting once depicted scenes of a stranded whale. Later, the whale was simply painted away and it was no longer clear why the crowds had gathered. The painting can be admired in the Fitzwilliam Museum in Cambridge. The creation of Adam. When Michelangelo Buonarroti began painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican, he was plagued by self-doubt. The artist actually saw himself as a sculptor and was less of an expert in frescoes. Nevertheless, he created one of the most breathtaking works of art in human history around 1512. The painting depicts the moment when God gives life to Adam in the book of Genesis. For a long time, people puzzled over the mysterious distance between the finger of God and the finger of Adam. Do they touch or not? No, they do not. Nevertheless, many viewers of the picture get the impression that they do. People simply overlook the gap. But something else has given rise to speculation. In 1990, the expert Dr. Frank Lynn Meshberger established that the robe of God with the hosts shows the exact proportions of the human brain. In his position, God would correspond to the limbic system, where our emotional side is at home. His hand points out of the creative cortex, which artists use in a special way. Meshberger interpreted his discovery to mean that the hidden message of Michelangelo's genius painting is that God endowed Adam with the gift of intellect, and that by using this great gift, man can reach his highest potential and bring everything his mind develops into creation. Café Terrace in the Evening. The 1888 painting Café Terrace in the Evening is one of the most famous works of art by the Dutch artist Vincent van Gogh. At first glance, the oil painting does not appear to hold any deeper secrets. Only the blue light, the stars, and the yellow interpretation of the scene seem fantastic. In 1889, Van Gogh actually wanted to create night paintings that were completely devoid of the black he hated. Van Gogh's favorite constellation, the Great Bear, can be seen above the scene, but the painting supposedly offers far more secrets than just a starry night sky and a random scene in the gaslight of the 19th century. The artist wrote to his sister, "I feel a tremendous need for, how shall I put it, religion. So I go outside at night to paint the stars, and I always dream of a picture like this, with a group of lively, friendly figures. Some art historians then believe that Christianity and religious art played a more important role in understanding the true meaning of Van Gogh's famous cafe painting than previously thought. They even wanted to recognize a connection to The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. Café Terrace in the Evening is now in the Kroller-Müller Museum in Artelo in the Netherlands. The Last Supper. Alongside the Mona Lisa, it is Leonardo da Vinci's most famous work of art and was painted directly on a monastery wall in Milan between 1495 and 1498. It depicts Jesus with his disciples on the night before his crucifixion. Jesus announces to his followers what will happen and gives them instructions on how they should behave after his death. The figure to the right of Jesus in particular gave rise to speculation. This is supposed to be the boyish John, but if you look closely, you can clearly make out a woman. What did the artist want to express with this? Does the woman represent Mary Magdalene or a companion of the Messiah who was deleted from the Bible in order to maintain the image of a husbandless Jesus and the Immaculate Mary? Conspiracy theorists rumor that the church has long known the true identity of Jesus, but conceal the fact that he was actually a normal man with a family and children. There is another circumstance that could substantiate this account. This is because, unlike usual, Leonardo depicted Jesus at the Last Supper without the otherwise obligatory halo. According to many interpretations, the man from Vinci wanted to express that Jesus and his disciples were completely normal mortals. A few years ago, an Italian musician who was admiring the painting in the monastery in Milan discovered some musical notes hidden in the table arrangement, which resulted in a very catchy and fantastic composition. Leonardo was a talented musician and saw in music a secret key to the forces of manifestation and love. Arnoldi Wedding. At first glance, the paintings by Flemish painter Jan van Eyck is an ordinary piece of Northern Renaissance art. But at second glance, critical minds notice some inconsistencies. Anyone who knows the background to the painting's creation will come to the further conclusion that there is something wrong with the picture, which became known as the Arnoldi Wedding. At first, the picture looks like the scene of a happy marriage. The woman appears to be pregnant. The oranges symbolize fertility and love, the little dog, fidelity. However, research reveals that the Arnolfinis had no children and that the depicted Costanza Arnolfini had died in 1433. However, the painting was dated 1434. The remote yet eye-catching mirror, in which two other people are reflected, one of whom is presumably Jan van Eyck himself, also appears mysterious to the close observer. Nearby, the artist placed the inscription, Johannes de Eyck voet Eyck 1434, which means Jan van Eyck was here 1434. Anyone who knows that the woman depicted in the painting was already dead at the time of its creation will recognize something completely different in the symbols than viewers who assume that the marriage has just taken place. Then it suddenly becomes apparent that a candle is burning in the chandelier above the man in broad daylight, while the one above the woman has gone out. Suddenly, it is also noticeable that Giovanni Arnolfini's face shows sadness. The little dog may be a symbol of death. In the Middle Ages, it was customary to carve a small dog on women's graves. The painting now hangs in London's National Gallery. The Dutch Proverbs. A work of art that is less reserved with meanings is The Dutch Proverbs by Pieter Bruegel the Elder. Painted in 1559, the oil painting depicts over 100 Dutch proverbs and sayings set in the hustle and bustle of a seaside village. The scenes depicted still include popular and well-known sayings such as throwing roses before swine, busting your hump, shitting on something, or putting horns on someone. What initially seems funny was probably meant less humorously by the artist. Pieter Bruegel is said to have had a view of the world that denounced sinfulness, evil, and foolishness, and saw the world as dark rather than bright. The painting is to be interpreted more as an indictment of deceit and deception, malice and weakness, than an amusing 16th century hidden object. The painting is in the collection of the Gemälderi der Staatlichen Museen in Berlin. The Envoys. The Envoys is a well-known painting by Hans Holbein the Younger, which was painted in London in the spring of 1533. For a long time it was not known who the painting depicted. Then it turned out to be the French envoys Jean de Denitville and Georges de Selve. Gradually, art experts deciphered the fantastic story of all the cryptically arranged objects surrounding the two men. The distorted skull in the foreground is a symbol of life and death. It only reveals itself to the viewer when using a specially cut magnifying glass. Mathematicians discovered a secret numerical symmetry in the geometric position of the globes, the two sundials, the quadrant, and the torquetum, which plays with series of 3 and powers. The position of the sun on the first clock shows the hour of Christ's death at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which corresponds to the 27 degrees shown. The painter hid the age of the two men depicted in the symbolism right next to them. Researchers suspect that these are by no means all the secrets of the painting. Prima Vera. Prima Vera, which means spring, is a painting by the Italian Renaissance painter Sandro Botticelli. The painting is one of the best known and most frequently reproduced works and has not yet been convincingly interpreted. The most common interpretation sees the painting as Venus's reign over the spring season and a symbol of erotic love. Zephyr, the god of the west wind on the far right of the picture, represents Flora, the Roman goddess of plants. Venus, the goddess of love, lures the viewer into her realm with her charms. Cupid, hovering above, stretches his bow towards the three graces, and on the far left, Mercury pushes the clouds aside. More recent interpretations claim to have recognized a secret code in this image. This is said to indicate that love, as a magical element, can dissolve the separation between the material and spiritual worlds and transport us into a magical realm. If you look at the picture long enough, you can overcome this barrier for yourself. If you would like to try this out, you could admire the original in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. The Prophet Zechariah. Finally, let's go back to the Sistine Chapel. Experts have now discovered a kind of code there, which is said to consist of mystical Jewish symbols and insults to the Pope. Among other things, Michelangelo is said to have depicted the Pope in the form of the Prophet Zechariah, with an angel behind the figure making an extremely obscene gesture. Experts interpret this as a reference to the Pope's corrupt machinations, of which Michelangelo would have been aware. The artist was very reluctant to accept the commission to paint the Sistine Chapel. This brings us to the end of this list of secret messages in some of the world's most famous works of art. Tell us what you thought of the video. Do you really think artists put all these meanings in their work on purpose? Or are the messages sometimes just coincidences? Share your opinion with us in the comments.